Here's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove podcast. It is Father's Day, so Dad will be joining me for today's episode. We're going to talk COVID's impacts on the playoffs, the NBA playoffs, as well as some LeBron slander. Then we're going to talk about the NFL with the Packers and their one plan, and QBs that haven't made it but still just might. We'll look at Spider Tack and Major League Baseball as well, and much more. That's what's cooking on today's Sports Stove podcast.
From Belly Up Sports and the Belly Up Podcast Network, you're listening to the Sports Stove Podcast with your host, Vince Stover.
Welcome in to another edition of the Sports Stove Podcast. And today's Father's Day. And even though he normally joins me on most episodes anyways, Dad is back with me today. Happy Father's Day, Dad, and welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. I got you a great gift, but it's not coming till your birthday.
There you go.
I'm sure I'll figure out what it is by then. I'm such a good son. All right, Dad. The people are listening. We're live right now on YouTube. We're live on Twitter. We're live on Facebook as well. Live just about everywhere. And people are tuning in. And I think there's a way they could enhance their listening experience, maybe through the help of our sponsor, Skull Candy. Dad, can you tell the listeners about Skull Candy?
Oh, that's where they can get help at, that's for sure, whether you're looking for true wireless freedom or total musical immersion. And right now, you can get great deals with Skull Candy Audio. You can save $20 on the Indie Eero True Wireless earbuds, and you'll get them for only $49.99. All you have to do to get these deals is click the Skull Candy link in the YouTube description, the Facebook or Twitter comments section, or in the podcast notes. And you can get this great deal from Skull Candy.
Yeah, that really is a pretty awesome deal right now going on for Skull Candy. I mean, you save $20 on a pair of wireless earbuds. I think that's well worth the investment. So thank you, Dad, for telling them about that. Let's get right into some interesting sports topics going on currently. Let's talk about COVID. As much as I hate it, as much as I want it to be over with, it keeps on rearing its ugly head. And now we're in the playoffs in two different sports. COVID has already had an impact. Earlier, I guess it was last week. Maybe it was, well, I guess technically last week. Cole Beasley made a lot of splash when he came out on social media and said he's not getting the vaccine and he'd rather die with COVID and live freely. And he went into this long spiel. He said some really stupid stuff along the way. But I do agree with him in the fact that he shouldn't be forced and even pressured into getting the vaccine. One of the things comes up, though, is, there's all these mandates still in the NFL, at least, with COVID and the protocols and things like that. In the NBA, Chris Paul is missing game one. That's going to be happening right now. And as he's doing that, it's because he's in the COVID protocols. He is vaccinated, and yet still we don't know all the details about it. They haven't shared everything that's going on with it, whether it's contact tracing or he's tested positive. But he's out, missing game one. Montreal Canadiens, their head coach, the interim head coach, Ducharme, he's out with COVID protocols, tested positive, asymptomatic, and he has his vaccine also. It brings to this interesting thing where COVID is impacting still with the vaccine. So I'm going to kind of open the floor to you where you want to go with it, if you want to go to Cole Beasley stuff or kind of where you want to go with the impact of it so far. But give me your thoughts on all the COVID stuff still affecting sports.
Well, it's interesting. I think the deal is at some point you're going to have to, either there's a law or not a law, and you're going to have to divide them. I say government, but it's really medical agencies from private companies, which would be like the NFL, NBA, NHL. They're either going to have to be allowed to have their own rules, and then if there is a legitimate threat to the community because of the way they're doing it, then they should be dealt with legally or more harshly, but let them have their own rules. Right now, I think, they're feeling pressure. The NFL, well, they want to have a season, so we've got to make Dr. So-and-so happy. We've got to make this guy happy or whatever. And I don't know that people are making any of these decisions on safety, and that's because now you got to deal with people being vaccinated that are still going into protocols. The thing with Cole Beasley, which to me was interesting, and I know it's not really apples and apples, but last year you could opt out of the whole season because you didn't feel safe. But you can't opt out of the vaccine because you don't feel safe. Now, I know there's some differences, and the deal is, well, you're threatening other people or whatever. But, and like I said, I think everyone out there in the community, I've got friends who've been vaccinated and had no problems. I have friends that have been vaccinated and got very, very ill and physically harmed for a while, lost movement in their one side and everything like that, and they're not going to finish the vaccine. So it's different. They're going to have to, and I think for political reasons, we have a vaccine now, everybody's going to get it. At some point, you either have to have it or you won't have to have it. I know here, Ohio has been fairly tight about things, but now all the signs read that, they recommend if you haven't been totally vaccinated, but they don't. Some healthcare places are a little more pushy about the mask and that, and some even ask, have you been vaccinated, and they require you to do certain things if you haven't been. But that's healthcare, and that makes a little more sense. People that are definitely at a health risk. But the major sports things are going to have to get a handle on this and not be jerked around, but they shouldn't be making the decision. They got to make the decision on what's best for people. And right now, that's really hard to know. And we all knew this was going to happen. You get in the playoffs, a major team's going to be affected in the playoffs because of these COVID rules. You got places with full stadiums, and I'm not hearing of any problems.
Right.
You got others that there's nobody there at all. But and I'm sure we would hear about it. These baseball stadiums that are full, these hockey arenas that are full, if one person got sick, you're going to hear all about it, and we're not hearing that. So I think people have to be smart. People have to be careful. Some of the things that came up with COVID are good. Hand wash, and people can always be careful, and that will be a help. But they're going to have to, get a handle on this because it can't go on. It'd be interesting to see what the NFL does because they had training camps. They had some things in place, but not like they had been. So, I don't know. They're going to have to get a handle, and I think they can't please everybody. So at some point, it's either a law or it's not a law. And I think they ought to, just like companies, I think companies can make their own rules now for employees, the NFL and if they decide, well, they're worried about what somebody thinks, then they're going to have to deal with their players like Cole Beasley about that.
Yeah, well, the NFL is an optics league right now, meaning that they only make decisions based off of what they think people are wanting to see. The concussion stuff, it's not about player safety still. It's about, what they're being pressured to do and what they feel like they have to do because of the optics of the situation. And the same is true with COVID because the COVID and the vaccine and stuff like that, for the most part, people are ready to move on. That's not everywhere, but a lot of people are. Mm-hmm. The argument that keeps coming up is, well, he should, if you don't get the vaccine, and they came up a lot about Cole Beasley, and then you're not being respectful of other people. You're not keeping other people safe, people who can't get the vaccine and things like that. But I go back to this whole hypocrisy of jumping on someone for something, but not actually thinking through that the fact that the rest of your life does not do the same thing. Yesterday, I had the chance to be on ESPN radio here in Lexington, and we talked about this. I said, I don't see any of these people going off on secondhand smoke. Secondhand smoke is affecting millions upon millions of people every single year, yet we still have people smoking and smoking in public places. And I don't see these people going off about those things, but they're going to go off about the vaccine. And the reality is COVID. The percentages, and we can't trust the government. They've lied to us. Both sides have. They've lied. They've hidden things. They've inflated issues, things like that. You don't know who to trust. And again, I think you can be unvaccinated and careful at the same time, and respectful of people also. It's going to be interesting to see how that affects the NFL season. As you know, we've already seen again Chris Paul. It's just weird, and then in the NHL, it's happening now with the coach as well. The NFL has a little bit more time to let things flow by and work through a few issues and things like that. They did that last year when they played. They kind of waited for everybody else to have the issues, and then they came in ready to go. And so maybe they'll have it ironed out by then. Speaking of the NBA playoffs are in full bloom right now. The Western Conference Finals are in Game 1 as we record this. Then the Eastern Conference Finals, Milwaukee beats Brooklyn, upsets Brooklyn last night. Of course, Kyrie Irving has been out with injury. Harden was not at full strength. Kevin Durant had a phenomenal last 2 games, but the Bucks were able to pull it off in overtime in Game 7 and move on to the Eastern Conference Finals. They'll play the winner of the 76ers and the Hawks that play later on Sunday night. And they will figure that one out there. And then we get into the finals. Right now we're looking at Phoenix and the Clippers, Milwaukee, and then either Philadelphia or Atlanta. The NBA has changed a lot over the years. The playing style has changed. The priorities have changed to some degree. Offense is more coveted than defense and all those sorts of things. But I think at the end of the day, Dad, the team is still more important than the superstar. Now, had Brooklyn had 3 superstars healthy, yeah, that would have worked. But one healthy superstar and maybe another half healthy superstar in Harden wasn't enough to beat a deeper team and a better team in Milwaukee. Dad, you've seen the transition. I know you don't watch a lot of NBA anymore, but you've seen the transition of basketball. Do you think that we're ever going to get away from this superstar packed teams and get back to 1 to 2 superstars per team and then a team built around them? Or do you think we're going to be stuck in this 3 superstars on a team going forward?
I'm afraid we're probably going to be stuck in this because of money. The superstars can make so much money. All the advertisers are wanting to push superstars, not a team. And I think as long as that is there, the NBA would have to have a real structure change. It could happen from that standpoint. And I think there are people like myself and like you that like to see good basketball, like to watch a good basketball game. Now you watch a good player. And it's funny this year because some of them, and I think, it's true, but I've heard a lot that, Steph Curry changed the game from because he was a long shooter. Well, Steph Curry I don't think he was in the playoffs and definitely not there now at the finals. So maybe there'll be some things that'll change. From what I understand, Milwaukee plays good defense. I may not be totally wanted for him, but, it'll just depend. It was very much a team concept before. You go back, when I was younger, you talk about the good teams. And even when there were superstars, with Bird and Magic, it was still, you still talk about the Celtics and the Lakers and how many they won. And even how many did the Bulls win? Now it's how many did this guy win? How many did that guy win? Because he's on a different team every other year. And right. I don't know. As long as the NBA can make big money off of it and people can make big money, then, it's kind of going to be that way. But if it changes sometimes with TV or with sponsors or whatever, but I don't know. Everything's changed in the high schools going to this super conference. Everybody's going to the superstar. So we'll see. We'll see how it affects college basketball.
Yeah, that's a good point you make about players moving all the time, and so you're kind of following the player. Um, it hasn't been that long since we've seen good teams win the finals. I think back even Golden State when before they got Kevin Durant and they won with Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. They were a team driven style of play. They moved the ball. San Antonio, they kind of followed that San Antonio model back when Tony and Manu and Tim Duncan were there, moving the ball around and getting the right shot. And, you think about the old teams, pretty much most basketball fans can name 4, maybe 5 players from the Showtime Lakers to the Celtics championship teams, those kinds of things. And nowadays, it really is. I mean, you look at the Lakers, and, of course, they're out this year. We'll talk about them in a moment. But LeBron and AD, and then it's just kind of a bunch of guys. And, they have some decent talent on the team. They're obviously better than me. But it's just they pay so much money for the stars that then they're making up a roster of guys that just honestly – they could make up a better team. You look at Phoenix, they've got 3 somewhat stars. Chris Paul is aging. Devin Booker's in his prime. And then DeAndre Ayton is coming along strong and playing some great basketball. But they've got a great cast around them as well. That's where Brooklyn was really hurt this year, is when Kyrie went down and when Harden was injured. They still had some talented players on the team, but they just weren't a team because – that's just not the way they were set up. They were set up for 3 guys to kind of run the ball, with the exception of Joe Harris getting some wide open threes, and it didn't work out. Milwaukee's got a good team. They're about 7, 8 guys deep. And to me, we're going to see them in the championship. I think that they're better than either Atlanta or Philadelphia. So I think we'll see them in the championship. Then Phoenix and LA, with Kawhi Leonard injured, it seems like Phoenix would have the upper hand, but with Chris Paul out, that's going to be interesting to see how everything goes there. Speaking of injuries, LeBron James, he came out just a week or 2 ago, and he said, I told you this was going to happen. Everyone's going to get hurt because we started playing too early. They wanted the season pushed back to give more rest from their time in the bubble. And then this week, the Lakers announced they will not be re-signing their athletic trainer because of all the injuries. So I'm starting to wonder, wait a second, what's the reason for the injuries? Is it the athletic trainer's fault, or is it the season starting too soon's fault? And Dan, I couldn't help but cry a little tear and feel incredibly bad for these poor NBA players. They had to play a whole shortened season down in Orlando, protected away from society. And then, could you believe the nerve of the NBA making them play another season afterwards? Incredible. Poor NBA players not getting a normal 3 months off like the rest of society gets. No, wait a second. We don't get 3 months off. Now, sure, my job isn't as taxing physically as the NBA is, but I think you can shut up and play at least one season close next to another season, especially when you think about all that society's been through right now. I think complaining about having to play basketball is a little too much for me. But, Dad, these celebrities and these professional athletes, they're kind of entitled, aren't they? I mean, the reality is they've always been babied. These great basketball players, these great football players, they've been the best and on their team their entire life, and they've been able to do whatever they've wanted. And now all of a sudden they've got to do something that's not normal, that's out of their routine. Boy, I'll tell you, the whole world's been out of routine, and I'm just tired of these guys complaining about having to play for millions and millions of dollars. How hard it must be. Well, I'll tell you what, Dad, this is a great opportunity for us to talk about Yeti, as Yeti is one of our sponsors. And LeBron James, he needs a vacation. He kind of needs some time off, a way to rest. And so we've got the perfect thing for him. Yeti is letting us know that travel is back. Over 2/3 of Americans are planning to travel this summer, LeBron James included, and Yeti's new luggage line is perfect for all adventures. Check out the Crossroads Collection luggage line by Yeti. All you have to do is click on the Yeti link in the YouTube description or in the comment sections of Facebook and Twitter or in the podcast notes. So Yeti is now making luggage, and I'm excited to see the luggage, and I'm assuming it's going to be incredible quality, just like the coolers and everything else. Of course, they still sell coolers and drinkware and other things, but they've released the new line of luggage out now. Click on the Yeti link and get yourself some new luggage for your next vacation or trip. All right, Dad, let's transition to football. The Green Bay Packers say they have one plan. No matter who the quarterback is, the offense is going to be the offense. Now, I've shared my thoughts on the radio yesterday, but I'll hear your thoughts first, and I have a feeling we might line up with this. But what do you think when you hear the Green Bay Packers say, it doesn't matter if it's Rodgers or Love, we've got one plan?
Well, I think that's about the only way they can prepare right now, because the Rodgers thing is so up in the air, and I don't think they know that he is not coming. I mean, I don't know how they really could put in two different plans. And I think in the last couple of years, technically the new plan they've had has worked. It's been a little different. I mean, Rodgers is great and he can run any plan, but the thing they've had with LaFleur, and especially last year, was different than what they had before. It fit really well, and they've got the key players back to do that with Devontae Adams, with the receivers. But the key guy is Aaron Jones. I mean, you can throw to him, you can run, he can do different things. And now with Amari Rodgers, they can make that plan effective. Will Jordan Love be able to make the reads and be as efficient as Aaron Rodgers? No, because I don't know that hardly any quarterback is going to be as efficient as Aaron Rodgers. But I think having a plan and having a strong plan is going to help whoever the quarterback is. I think Jordan Love, if Aaron Rodgers is not there, and I still think he will be, but if he's not there, Jordan Love will get the first shot at it. But Blake Bortles, who's not gotten many snaps yet, played under some of this same system with the same, offensive coordinator to an extent. Won't be totally foreign to him. The thing this year that's going to be very interesting in the NFL, I know we're going to talk about some other quarterbacks here in a minute, is the difference of last year with having preseason games. Mm-hmm. You're going to get a look at it, and you're going to see. But I think they have to have one plan. The first day you heard this, you heard it from the media, and they tried to make it sound like LaFleur said, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is, we're fine. No, that's not true. The deal is, but we're going to have one system. Again, you and I keep up with it a lot. I keep up with it a lot on the internet, and they're very happy with how they've been able to get prepared. And people, even the new players, learning the system, they feel like they're ready to come back at training camp with a plan in place, with people knowing things. And you can't do that if you have two systems. I mean, I don't see any way they could. I'm sure there's tweaks. I'm sure there are certain packages they'll run if they have Aaron Rodgers, and there are certain packages they won't run if they don't. But as far as the basic plan and what they're going to try to do, again, right now, they've been very happy with the offensive line. If you can have a good offensive line and you got some talented players like Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, Robert Tonyan, you can be successful. And if Jordan Rodgers or Jordan Love just can't do anything, then they're going to have to go back with somebody else. But I'm not so sure Aaron Rodgers will not be there yet. I'm not convinced about that. We will see. I wish he would settle this before the big golf thing, but I'm sure the golf match would hope he doesn't, because It'll be a lot more publicity for them. And but on the golf course, they probably won't let him wear a T-shirt, so he'll have to get something else made to show his offense.
Yeah, yeah. So this one plan, it's an offensive system, And we've seen it be successful with quarterbacks that are less talented than Aaron Rodgers. Go back to Washington. It's the Shanahan system. Go back to Washington with Kirk Cousins. He had some success. You look at Atlanta with Matt Ryan, some success. They go into the Super Bowl. Goff in L.A. went to the Super Bowl. Jimmy G in San Francisco went to the Super Bowl. This system is not new, and this system works for a variety of reasons. You've got all the motion, you've got all the misdirection, and all those kinds of things. So, yes, it is the same system. Now, will the Packers be better if Aaron Rodgers is running it than Jordan Love? Yes, 100% yes. And I'll say this, I can't believe that you even spoke at all positively of the fact that maybe Bortles gets a chance. No way. It's Jordan Love or it's Aaron Rodgers, plain and simple, and they're going to live and die with it however it goes. So, yes, one plan, of course it is. It's a system, and the system has worked, and it works for certain reasons. And you're right, the Packers they've got a very, very good team. They went to the NFC Championship the last 2 years, and as good as Aaron Rodgers is, it wasn't all on him either. And they need to improve their defense, and I think they have this year. But they've got the offense around Jordan Love where if he is the quarterback, are they going to be 13-3? Well, no, because there's a 17-game season. But no, probably not. But could they still be a 10-win team? I think so. So we'll see how that all plays out. Some quarterbacks, I was thinking through this. Dwayne Haskins recently came out and mentioned, just that he's going to be proving to the Steelers that he loves football and that he's ready for another chance. I started thinking through some of the quarterbacks out there right now, some backup quarterbacks that haven't yet really made it, but still could. Jameis Winston's going to get an opportunity again. I have struggled to put him on this list because he had some success in Tampa, but obviously he spent last year as a backup. So I've got him on there. I've also got Gabbert on there, a first-round pick, and he's backing up Tom Brady, I believe, in Tampa right now. The other guys I thought of, Dwayne Haskins, Blake Bortles, Mitchell Trubisky, and then Josh Rosen were the names that I was thinking of guys that if you get them in the right situation, they still have a chance to succeed. Bortles went to an AFC championship game. Winston had 30 touchdowns. He also had 30 interceptions, but 30 touchdowns and bukus of yards. Gabbert, I'm not too sure about, and he's kind of maybe settled into that backup role where that's just going to be his fit. Maybe like a Ryan Fitzpatrick as his years continue, where he might start 2 to 3 games a season to transition to a rookie or something like that. I'm interested, though, in Dwayne Haskins and in Mitchell Trubisky. Haskins, I'm not sure how everything was set up in Washington for him, and he's in a really good spot right now to learn from Ben Roethlisberger, to learn how to be a professional, because that seemed to be some issues in Washington with him. And then also under Mike Tomlin, being under a really good coach. And to me, if he still has the physical abilities, he's a guy that I think could really show up in a year or two as someone who could still compete as a starter in the NFL. Then the other guy is Mitchell Trubisky, Dan. We enjoyed him being on the Bears as Packer fans. We were all for it. But I think he has some talent, but I think you need to put him in a system that fits his skills. And, he's going to be backing up Josh Allen in Buffalo. He's not going to start there. But maybe he gets another shot in another 2 years to go somewhere else, and maybe they'll build a system around him and give him a shot. I think he could still be. Are there any of those backup quarterbacks, young first-round picks that haven't made it that kind of stick out to you?
It's kind of interesting with all of them, and I do think the preseason being 3 preseason games will help most of them. Like you said, they have to be in the right spot. Rosen is in the wrong spot. He's not going to get much of a chance there. Bortles, like you said, is probably in the wrong spot. Not going to see a lot of reps or get a lot of attention. Jameis Winston, of all of them, have the best chance to start. Yeah. But I don't know that he will. Even when Drew Brees was there, Hill still had packages for him. And I don't know who they're going to really give the best shot to or who fits. And New Orleans is not as good a team as it was either. and that could hurt a little bit. But again, if you can use Alvin Kamara the right way, you can have good success. So Winston has a shot. I agree with you. I think Haskins is very interesting. I think he has a lot of intangibles. I think with Pittsburgh, he's the one guy outside of Winston that has a chance to get to play a little bit. I think if there's mop-up opportunities, as long as he shows enough that they're going to want to look for him and say, could he be our guy when Ben leaves, then he may get, beside preseason, he may get some opportunities there. But he's going to have to earn them, and he's going to have to work there, but he may be in a good situation. Trubinsky is in a good situation for him to audition. He's going to get a lot of preseason reps. They're not going to want to get Josh Allen hurt. When the season starts, Trubinsky will be like quarterbacks we've known. He'll have negative rushing yards because at best he'll be kneeling down. I don't see him seeing the field at all, but you don't have to right away if you can get preseason games and people get a look at him and think he's there. And of course, injuries can change all that. Gabbert is one I've always been kind of interested in. If I was looking for a backup, I think in the right system with the right coaches, he's a good backup because I think he has got some potential there. Tampa Bay, is he in the right place? Depends what they do with Trask. If they want to get a better look at Trask, then, and I don't see him trying to put Trask on the practice squad because you might lose him. But again, he may be 3. Again, with Brady, there could be some mop-up opportunities. You don't want to get him in the whole game. I don't know that Gabbert will fit in there. I think it depends how he looks. But I think that they're going to have to give Trask a good hard look and see if he's got potential for the future. So some of those guys aren't in the best spot to take advantage of this. Other guys, the preseason is going to help a lot. I don't know that any of them are great NFL starting quarterbacks. Strangely enough, I think Haskins has the best chance to be one. And in the right system. I mean, in college, he came in, he was the guy that was third string and won the national championship. So,
No, that was, wasn't that Cordell Jones?
I know Haskins played a lot. I mean, not been that year. So
yeah, I think Cordell Jones was the third stringer that came in and won, but Haskins got a full season in and was phenomenal at Ohio State. And they've had some deep quarterback classes for sure. What's interesting is now there's going to be some options. So you've got the preseason games that are going to help. And I think anytime that you can bring in a first-round drafted quarterback as a backup on your team, I think that's a good thing. When the Packers signed Bortles, I had people texting me, Bortles. But I was like, hey, he went to the AFC Championship game, and he was a first-round pick. That's not a bad thing. Is he great? No. But he obviously has talent. And so now if you can get him in a right system and use his abilities correctly, I'm not opposed to that. But you've got the XFL that's coming soon. You've got the USFL that is starting up soon. And, of course, you still got the Canadian Football League as well. That might provide some opportunities for some of these guys to go out and show their talent level. I mean, the XFL is going to need quarterbacks. The USFL is going to need quarterbacks. And these are the kind of names that makes sense, I think, to go out. If you play a full season there and you show off your talent, the NFL is going to bring you right back. And so I think that's going to be a fun situation, and we might get to see some of these guys out. I hope they do. I'd love to see some of these guys playing in the XFL or the USFL, and maybe we can see what they have. It'll be interesting nonetheless. All right, let's transition to Major League Baseball. They're starting tomorrow, Monday, checking pitchers for the sticky substances, the foreign substances on the belts, the hats, and the gloves, and anywhere else that they deem necessary to search. They said they're going to check pitchers after the innings are over, or when they leave, when they're done pitching completely, which I think is weird. And then they're going to check the closers when they come into the game to avoid any weird stuff going on after the game. We talked about it a little bit last time, so we don't have to spend much time on it. Major League Baseball is really what they're doing, Dad, is they're enforcing a rule that's already in place that they have not enforced for a very long time. I personally, I'm all for it. I'm saying let them use the spider tack, let them use the sticky substances. I think it's good. But it is what it is. They're going to abide by the rules. So I know we talked about it before, but any more thoughts on now what's happening and the Major League Baseball finally cracking down on this?
Well, again, it may be short-lived because the length of games and all that is going to come into play. It's interesting. I hadn't heard the details that they're going to just check the starters when they leave. Question, and you may know the answer to this, is, okay, a guy leaves and they find a substance. So he was leaving. What is that? What is that? Is he going to be suspended, like he can't get his next start? Is he going to be suspended for 2 weeks? I mean, what's going to happen on after the fact?
It's a 10-day suspension, automatic 10-day suspension if they find something. But it's weird because if they check them when they leave, then you had the whole game. So if you're a fourth or fifth starter in the rotation, why not take your chances and see if you can get away with it? Be creative with it, and I don't know. That's my thoughts on it, but I don't know.
Is that the same way with the closers? They find a closer coming in and he doesn't get to pitch that game and he's 10 days?
Yes. Yep. So
that could crack down on the closers because that could affect quite a bit. You got the big closer coming in and he can't do it. The thing that's going to be interesting is going to be, will that work just to check at the end of the game and whatever? Because you got to believe there's going to be assistant coaches, base coaches watching and saying, hey, he's going to his belt
Well, yeah, so teams are allowed to request a check. They are allowed to do that if they see something. And you're talking about nowadays, they're watching the analytics. So if the spin rate is higher than normal, they're going to tell the umpire, and the umpire is going to go check the pitcher. If he's having a career day, the pitcher is, they're gonna go to the umpire, and the umpire is going to go check the pitcher. It could be just used as a stall tactic, as a way to get into a pitcher's head. Hey, he's doing this. You need to go check that. It's not going to be a perfect system. There's no doubt about that. It's not going to be a perfect system. But let's see if anything comes of it. It seems like pitchers have already kind of cut it out a little bit because some of the great pitchers from the season are having some down days here recently. But nonetheless, the American League East, Boston back on top over Tampa by a half a game. Chicago still holding out over Cleveland in the Central. And then in the West, it is Oakland and Houston battling it out. Houston currently a half a game back. In the National League, the Mets are up 3.5 games on Philly. Milwaukee and Chicago are tied in the Central with Cincinnati and St. Louis at 3 games back. San Francisco, Dad, still holding on tight to that number 1 spot in the West. 1.5 games over the Dodgers, 5 games over San Diego. We are approaching the All-Star break. And I had a conversation yesterday here in Lexington with the local radio about the Reds. And, I really feel after the All-Star game, the Reds are going to plummet. They're going to go the wrong direction. But tell me about San Francisco. Are they going to withstand? Are they going to withhold? Not necessarily being first, but are their season going to continue on a positive trajectory, or are we going to see them collapse here after the All-Star break?
I mean, I'm a fan, but no, I don't think they'll collapse. They're playing good baseball. Apparently, they have good coaching. Right now, they have good pitching. I mean, injuries can affect any of that, but their bullpen is good. Can they hold off the Dodgers? I don't know. I think the most significant thing I've seen this week that I watch is the Padres are slipping. If we can keep distance there, sure, I'd love to win the division, but you need to get in the playoffs. And the Dodgers, and it's not been a thing where the Dodgers are playing poorly. The Giants are playing well. I mean, they've had the best record a couple times, and it's close, I guess, with Chicago over in the AL. So I think they'll keep playing well. Again, injuries can always affect that, but they've been playing good, and they have different guys. The star, they have different guys that hit home runs. It's not just 1 or 2 guys at this point. So that probably gives them a good chance. And I think they have leadership. Posey's having a great year, and he provides leadership. And I'm sure Crawford does too, and different ones like that.
Even with the Padres slipping here recently, San Francisco, LA, and San Diego are the top 3 teams in the National League right now when it comes to record and winning percentage wise goes. And they're really tops in the league. Oakland, Houston, and the White Sox, Boston, and Tampa are all up there as well. San Francisco, the most wins so far this season, and they're doing it really well at home, 23-10, on the road, 22-16. They're scoring runs, and they're playing pretty decent defense as well. So that'll be interesting to see. Any thoughts on the college baseball World Series?
Well, I think it'll be very good to follow, a lot of fun to watch. NC State, I mean, it's just surprising everybody. Nobody thought they'd beat Arkansas, and then they won big over Stanford, so it'll be interesting to see if that continues. Really good game last night with Arizona and Vandy. And Arizona's really good. Of course, they're going to have to come out of the losers bracket now a little bit from there. Tennessee's getting beat now. I mean, I'd like for them to do good, obviously. Virginia may be really good there, and it just should be good all the way along. SEC, we'll see how they do with 3 teams in it.
College sports are really, really phenomenal to watch, and I think sometimes it gets lost because of the big names in the pros. College sports, it's well worth the time to check into. Last night, Saturday night, former UFC fighter Anderson Spider Silva upset Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. by split decision in a boxing match last night. He was a massive underdog, and I didn't watch the fight. I went back and watched some of the highlights and things, and Silva was one of the most entertaining UFC fighters for many years, and then he just got beat up and old, and it wasn't working for him anymore, but he was entertaining and dominant enough to win the fight, 77-75 for 2 of the officials there, the judges, and then he lost from one other judge, 75-77. But Anderson Silva standing up for the UFC community, finally beating a boxer. There's been a lot of UFC fighters trying to box, and it hasn't been going well for him. But congratulations to the Spider, Anderson Silva, with his boxing win. Only his 3rd boxing match in his life. He hasn't boxed in an official match since 2005, as a professional, I should say, in 2005, and comes out and wins the match there. All right. As far as the Sports Stove podcast goes, we'll be back on Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. We'll be live, and, of course, always have the podcast. We're going to be joined by our old friend Brad Taylor on Tuesday. We're going to talk rookie quarterbacks and NFL quarterbacks, the starting odds and things like that with Brad, and always enjoy when Brad is on, and looking forward to that program. I want to remind everybody, go to the comment section or to the YouTube description or to the podcast notes. Click on the links there for Skull Candy and for Yeti, and you can get some great products there, and that way they'll know that we sent you. Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Until next time, we will see you around the Sports Stove.